On the Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 3, we have options for both stitch width and length and needle positions and all sorts of ways to change up our stitches. Hi, I'm Sarah from sewingmastery.com, and we're doing free video tutorials on this beautiful machine and help you master and understand why you even have all these functions on your machine. So one of the things we want to talk about right now is needle position, or on this machine as it's called, positioning. So start by selecting a straight stitch and then opening up the edit stitch area. So the little arrow popping up will open up the options of things you can do to this stitch. Now in the positioning area of a straight stitch, we have what is called a plus and a minus, and it starts at 0. So this machine has a stitch width of 9 millimeters wide. That means I should be able to move the needle to the right 4.5 millimeters, and yes, if I keep going all the way over to 4.5, yes, we are getting there. And you can kind of hear the machine kind of click, click, click moving, and that needle is moving while we are touching that. Now, the easiest way to get that back to normal would be to select this stitch again, and that will clear out anything that you've actually been doing. Now, just so you know, you can change any of these settings while you're sewing. And I actually do that quite often where I'm trying to dial in an exact setting for the machine, and that way I can actually be watching as I'm making it bigger or smaller or moving it to the left or to the right. Now, why do I need to move needle positions at all? Number one, when I'm sewing zippers or doing some top stitching, instead of shifting your fabric so not all the fabric is underneath your foot, the ideal thing to do is to shift your needle and keep your foot always on all the layers of the fabric. But what we also can do it for is with, say, decorative stitches. So I'm going to just pick a random decorative stitch. For example, this one's not very wide like some of the stitches are when you pick them. They kind of come up much wider. But for example, on stitches that are not the full 9 millimeters wide, when I'm over here, I can come in, I have width and I have length, but to find needle position, you now have a little toggle place where you can touch, and now we have positioning. So this particular stitch does start in the center, but watch, if I went ahead and plus, I can actually slide that stitch kind of to be, say, sewing a little bit more to the right of center or to the left of center. And I do use this quite a bit when I'm doing a lot of decorative stitches, is I can kind of shift the stitch and not necessarily shift my fabric. And it really is ideal to know how to play with the positioning or needle positions of a stitch. I do want to point out, for example, if you're on a stitch that is the full 9 millimeters wide when you pick it, which a lot of your decorative stitches will be, when you toggle over to the positioning area, you're going to notice that neither of these are an option. So that's because you're already at the fullest amount. Now, a way to be able to shift it if you wanted to is to actually just have it not be as wide. So maybe you've reduced it. And I do this sometimes when I'm looking for a petite looking stitch, is I'll adjust the length and the width and make it miniaturized. Well, now I have an option. I can shift it to the right or to the left of my stitching area with my foot. So I can be a little bit to this side or to the left, and that makes it really easy. Now, a reminder to get everything back to normal. I've changed the needle position, I've changed the width, and I've changed the length. By reselecting the stitch, it will go back to its normal setting. And then that way you don't have to guess until they all kind of unhighlight. You can just go, hey, just get me back to where I started. You can also turn off the machine and turn it back on, or pick another stitch and then come back to the one you're working on, and then that way it will find itself back at where you started. So if you're ever in a class or taking an online course and somebody says, move your needle to the right or shift this stitch to the left, you now know that you have both width and needle positions right here in the edit stitch area, right at your fingertips. I hope this has been helpful, and if it has, make sure you're always clicking the like button after you watch a video. That's common courtesy for saying thank you for the information. And you'll find all of our videos in the description below, including online courses that you can take to help master your wonderful Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic 3.